Hello, and welcome to the Daily Reset, where we are discovering ways to calm the chaos, renew our inner truth, and love with an open heart. Today, I am really happy to share with you our speaker, Ava Charlotte. Ava, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. I'm so honored. It's a great honor to be with you all. Very exciting.
Thank you so much. I would like to share with you all a little bit about Ava. I have been drawn to her, and the name of her business is not business, but her mission in life is Rise in Love. And it just feels so fitting to what I'm doing here and what she's doing in her life. So Ava's passion is to support the rising awareness of social entrepreneurs and leaders with the intention of win-win in this world for all of us. And Ava has been for 25 years working with people in groups and transformational work. She holds deep space for transformational work to occur. Ava has traveled all over the world. I have seen her in many places recently, like New Zealand, and she loves to explore the boundaries and perceived limitations, and is constantly learning and growing. So Ava, thank you for coming to share with us today and be with us. I would love to have you just share what your current work is in the world right now. I've been seeing some things going on in New Zealand and something about the peacemakers.
Yes. It's interesting the way you phrased that question, though, my current work in the world, and I really have to answer that differently.
Okay.
But because for me, my current work in the world is always here. It's always with this expression of life through this human being that I call Ava, and her perceived limitations and fears and ideas of glory and whatever it can be, and constantly going deeper into alignment with what I really am, life itself. So that is my current work. And then through that, I get inspirations of doing more outward actions.
Right.
And that's what we normally talk about when we ask a question like that. And you mentioned peacemakers, and that is my passion right now, something I call global peacemakers, which is, the idea comes from that we're all really energy. And when I walk into a room, the room will change because now I am present. And the same is true for you or anyone. We have an impact on our surroundings all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. And by making my current work, having, even if it's just a tiny little more awareness of how I show up in the grocery store with a cashier, picking up laundry, putting gas in my car, all of that, in all interactions with other human beings or any life form for that matter, to be aware of how am I showing up, and am I bringing something positive to the situation. And if I can't, because some chaos is going on in me, it happens to all of us, can I have enough awareness to not project that onto other? And if I can't do that, can I at least make it a little less? So if my level of drama, or any person's level of drama in a given situation is, say, 50%, if I can make it down to 45%, I'm a peacemaker.
I love that.
And if enough human beings can have just a tiny little bit more awareness, the world will change. It's a numbers game. It's not that we all have to become enlightened overnight or go into a war zone and become a real activist peacemaker. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but not everyone wants to. But being a little bit more aware in my daily life and consciously choosing to bring more peace or joy or happiness to myself and others. And by doing that more and more and more, the waves will spread. So it's really a grassroots movement in that way. And then peacemakers, global peacemakers, takes different shapes And right now, what we're doing is bringing people to New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
There is a indigenous group of people there called the Waitaha Nation of Peace. They haven't been known or public or open for many hundreds of years. They only opened up in, I think it was 2012 or so. So it's only a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been living in peace for hundreds of years.
Really?
They almost got extinct when the Maoris came to New Zealand. They were there before the Maoris, and they refused to fight because they consider themselves peacekeepers. So not peacemakers, they are peacekeepers.
Peacekeepers, right.
And they're holding that vibration of peace. And there's many groups of people across the world that are doing that, and like a grid of energy being held for all of us.
Right.
And now we're bringing people to visit them there. So that's one of the expressions right now, which is very exciting.
That is exciting. It's exciting to hear that you're connecting with somebody who has had this for so long, and they're just holding it. They're holding it as a keeper, because I feel like in our society here, we have lost bits and pieces, and then we're coming back to, right? Like what you said about your work is yourself, and I honor that, and that's so beautiful, so true. It's our inner work that gets to come out in the world.
Yeah, I personally believe it. That's the only place we really have any power. It's with ourselves, and through that we can impact the rest of the world. But it has to start here. The peace can never be over there, or happiness cannot be over there, or love cannot be over there. It has to start here.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. When I first got your bio and was reading about it, you had said in the first statement, a win-win for the world. And that's the win-win, right? It's the choosing for ourselves and for others in the service. And it just makes such sense.
It's so interesting with the word service, because it's very popular. It's to be in service, which is fantastic. Nothing wrong with being in service. What we tend to forget, though, is that if I'm in service to humanity, which I am, I am part of humanity. And I have to serve this as well.
Right. Yeah.
I am part of that.
Right.
So if I'm taking care of this, because this needs attention right now, it doesn't mean I'm not in service, and it doesn't mean I'm selfish. I am part of humanity. And this needs to be cared for in order to be able to support others.
Mm-hmm. And that's the point of the daily reset. Like, what can we do to care for ourselves so that we can then actually create that love, create those relationships, have that ripple effect that we want so bad in our lives. I mean, that's the true intention, right? For all of us. So, coming back to ourselves, do you have a daily practice of something that you like to do, Ava, that you would be willing to share with us?
Gosh, of course I'm willing to share. My practice has changed, though, over time. It all depends on where I'm at in my own journey.
Right.
Before I get into sharing an actual practice, what I feel is very important is the awareness that I am here in this life as a spiritual being, consciousness, soul, energy, whatever language fits for you,
right?
All of you out there. I am not of this world, but my body is. So my human being, my body, my emotions, my mind are born out of this physical realm. It's made of matter. It belongs here. And I am present in my physical being, but I am not it. And when we talk about reset, in a way, there's an automatic reset every night. We go to sleep and consciousness is free to roam. but there's not really a reset in the physical being. It carries the memories of everything it has gone throughout this whole life. From the moment it came out of our mothers, it's been imprinted with all the different experiences that has gone through it. It's held as a memory in the physical being.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there is a practice that would just take that away like that. I haven't found it. There's a practice of doing that on a continuous basis and peeling it and releasing it and freeing it, but not just an overnight setting. And unless you have some kind of traumatic experience or blissful experience that completely just awakens you in a moment, which happens. It's rare, but it does happen.
Right.
So for me, the practice that had made the most sense is, first of all, realizing that I'm not my physical being. I'm not the emotions that are arising within me. I'm not the thoughts that flow like a river or storm at times. And it's something that is happening within me. And I used to be in such struggle with that because I had an idea that awakening or enlightenment or being happy or being good was to not have those thoughts, the negative, crazy thoughts or angry emotions or fearful. If you're awakened, you don't have fear. And I don't believe that at all any longer.
Mm-mm.
I used to.
Really?
Yeah. So there was this
having a human experience though, right?
I know, but that somehow that was something that when I started my awakening journey, that's how I understood it.
Yeah.
And that just created a conflict within. So having an awareness that I am not all of this and not making that into a separation. In the very initial of the awakening, it is a separation because you have to realize you're not this.
Right.
But not a separation as a pulling away from, more of an awareness that I'm not this, but I'm very present here. And that is very much my daily practice, but not just 5 minutes or an hour in the morning, but continuously during the day, remembering that I am here. And when I say I am here, I don't mean my physical body or my thinking mind. I mean the greatness of all that I am.
Right.
So if I call my physical Eva, my physical expression is the little me, and the big I is the grandness of what we all are. So just by remembering that I am here and putting my attention on the fact that I am present here, making sure I am present here, because the mind, the human thinking mind, Eva or Teri or anyone out there, for the human thinking mind, it's almost impossible to be in the now. It either thinks about the past or the future. So by constantly making sure I'm present here, right now, in this moment, and bringing attention to the fact that I, as a spiritual being, am present here. I, awareness, consciousness, soul, I am present here. And a trick to do that is to think of the very center of your being. So if you're a big bubble, in the very center is this point. You can call it the seat of the soul or spiritual heart. It's not the heart chakra, it's not your physical heart, it's deeper.
Okay.
And connecting to that space, even if there's no conscious awareness of, I don't feel it, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Just have the intention of connecting there, knowing that that is the gateway to all that I am. And then breathing, because having the attention on all that you are and breathing brings spirit and physicality together. You bridge the two, so you connect the two. And most of us live either completely in the physical, or we check out and we go into the spiritual. We meditate or
right.
somehow we separate, which feels really good. And that's a practice many use, and it's a great practice. Disconnect and really go into that space through meditation every day. I like that as well, but I find to really live a rich human life, it has made much more impact for me to consciously bring that here, to merge the two, to really be here. Right. And that's not always fun, because if I am here, the big I, me, fully present, I feel everything. And there are things I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
So when emotions are arising and something triggers a painful memory, and that is just flooding through my being, all I want to do is check out.
Right.
Push the emotions down or check out, because I don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
But if I don't allow it to express, it will always be held within my being, and it will express at times, and it will affect my life. So my practice now is to really, whatever is coming up, to really doing my very best to allow it to be whatever it is. Emotions, thoughts, and holding all that in, like I'm the container. So if fear is coming up, fear is arising in my being, it doesn't mean I am afraid.
Right.
Fear is present, yes. But I am only afraid if I start identifying with the fears. Oh my God, I'm afraid. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And now my mind is connected to the emotion, and now I'm making stories around, wait a minute, I should be afraid, and off and running. Mm-hmm. Now I am afraid. But the fact that the emotion is present doesn't mean it needs to control me. I can hold fear. And it can be intense and scary, and I can still have this awareness. I'm here, embracing it, I'm aware of it, I'm holding it. But it's not going to influence what words come out of my mouth, and it's not going to influence what actions I'm taking with my loved ones.
Right.
And really practicing holding that.
That's exactly where I was going. I was like, so we're holding the emotion that we're feeling, and instead of being reactionary or even coming from that place, we're just containing it.
Take practice though, because at least it did for me, it still does.
Yeah.
Because my how I was trained as a child was that it wasn't okay.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That was my story, and we all have different stories. It's either okay to be completely free in your emotions, and you have a family where everything is really loud and everyone is fighting, or you have a family where it's not allowed and it's suppressed and you hide it within yourself. There's all kinds of different ways. And finding what is true for me in my little me, how has my little me learned to deal with being human? And how would the bigger I deal with being human? How can I just love my human, whatever she's feeling, mm-hmm. without letting her run amok because she's afraid? It's not about just letting whatever is arising within me be expressed and hurt other people. It's not like that at all. It's
right, because it rules you. I mean, it can rule us, and
yeah,
I mean, it does, and that's how we get that's how we get ourselves in trouble, and how we create the life that we don't want, right? It's just reactionary things running through our physical body.
Yeah.
And then they act out, and it's not at all what we intended.
Yeah.
And then we have a image of ourselves, or somebody else has an image of how we had that interaction, and it's not even real.
Yeah, but we're acting out of the past that's being held in our physical form. It's memory coming up. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have awareness that is even happening, we think it's me. I am feeling this because of what's going on right now, when it's not even relevant to what's going on now. It's completely based in the past. Mm-hmm. And then the memories act almost like automatic responses, reactions. It's automatic reaction. It's not a conscious response. It's an automatic reaction. Something happens, triggers a memory, and we're off and running.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be shutdown, or it could be explosion. It could be all kinds of things. But they're all automatic reactions. And then you are not living your life. Your memories are living your life. And we're completely trapped in the story of our past, and we don't even know it.
Completely not present to actually what's happening. Like, you know, like you had just said, it's so difficult to actually be in the present moment because of all of this, right?
Yeah.
Is this?
But a very, very simple trick is to put the attention on the seat of the soul, the spiritual heart, and breathe, conscious of breathing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so almost silly because it's so simple, but it brings us here. And it only takes 20 seconds. But doing that on a regular basis makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because it brings presence here. It brings you here. And if you are present, your past can't take control. When you are not present, you, what you really are, when you, who you really are, is not present, your past has free reins. If you are present, it does not. All it takes is being present. And most of us are not.
Mm-hmm.
Because we get so caught up in the world.
Right.
And it's fun. The world is fun. Or painful, whichever kind of life we're living. But either way, we get caught up in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, but playing that game of life with presence, with awareness. I am here. And I'm living this life. I am here. Instead of just being like a, what's it, marionette doll?
Right.
Is that what they're called? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Puppets.
Yes, like a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Puppet to the past.
Yeah, I just have a vision of that, like a big old dark guy that says past, and he's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a reset. Just constantly reset back to here and now, here and now, here and now.
Absolutely. And it's such a gift because we, like the breath, like you're saying, is all it takes. Just 20 seconds to.
Yeah. We have this amazing tool, and every teaching through thousands of years have talked about it. And most of us, we don't use it. It's just too simple somehow.
Right. We like to complicate things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's so powerful. So powerful. And if you use the trick of centering in the heart and being aware of your breathing, and that really, if you can feel that really brings you to a place of, wow, I'm here, then there's one more step you can take where you put your attention at the base of your spine, and you follow your breathing up your spine and then down your spine. As you breathe, you go up, and you breathe out, you go down. That brings the awareness of you, presence, consciousness, that brings that energy more into your emotional being as well. Mm-hmm. And it's a way of aligning and balancing the flow of energies in your body. Mm-hmm. I've just been amazed how effective that is when something is knocking me out of my balance. Just take a step back, even if it's not a physical step, but internally, and just breathe a little, and it just calms down. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Instead of reacting in that emotional state, just bringing myself back to presence, and from presence making a choice. And often that's a very different choice.
I can see that in many situations just for my day.
Yeah.
If I'm, just kind of going back to what happened just even before our time together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
And the
different.
tendency, I can only speak for myself, but I know from my mind, I have a strong mind. She feels she knows what to do, and she's a doer, and she takes charge. And so if there's any kind of reactivity going on in my being, my thinking mind, Eva, she wants to fix things. And from that place, she is taking action. And it's not always the best action.
Right.
But if I can take that step back and really be present first and ground myself in my body and the big I am here, and then let her do her thing. Because then it's coming from presence, not from reactivity.
Mm-hmm. The big I.
Versus the little me.
Right, the little me.
Yeah.
Yes. Is this what you're sharing with us? Is this a piece of where you originated with Rise in Love? I'm just curious.
Gosh. The phrase rising love really comes from the idea that we're already love. Love is the essence of what we are, and it's not something we seek it, but we seek it as something that's separate from us, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not rise to love or into or any of that would point to some kind of separation. It's more an awakening to, wait a minute, what I'm looking for out there is, wow, it's here.
Right.
And then as that awareness grows and you're able to choose how to feel, there is a rising in love and an ability to stay more in that heightened state, a happier state, the love energy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I don't want to say it that way, because I don't want it to be that there's something wrong with anger or fear. One of my teachers once said, love is like the color white. The white light is all the colors, and love is all the emotions. So it's the energy that holds all the emotions, and I think that so beautifully describes it. So it really is about what we just talked about, coming to awareness that everything is love, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the essence of what we're made of. Everything originally comes from that energy. So the murderer is made of love.
Right.
Just like Jesus or Buddha. We come from the same source, and we're all on this journey of finding our way back to that. And sometimes that's very painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a need to embrace that also. That's okay. It's part of this human life, that it's this reality we share here it has all those expressions. It has all the colors, and it has all the emotions. It's part of being human. And one of the most clear expressions of that is a newborn child. They feel everything. You poke them with something sharp, they feel pain and they scream, and the moment the pain is gone, they're happy again.
Yeah.
It's so in the moment, and it's so expressive, and it's so free and curious, and then somehow we start limiting ourselves and shrink and hold back, and rising love is a journey back to that, to just being all that we really are. It's not something that's gone. It's just covered up by all the beliefs and stories we tell about ourselves.
Right.
It's never lost. We can't lose what we are. So
No. It's there.
yeah.
Not like we're rising into it. It's like we're, um, like to put emotion into it. I'm seeing like, like we're rising into ourselves.
Yeah. Rising up out of all those layers we have put on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And just shedding the layers and shining the light that we are.
Absolutely. Such a fun and glorious journey that we're on. Coming into new ways of being that we can have.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
There's moments when I wouldn't agree with that. like, oh no, I don't think this is fun at all. But once I'm through it, yep, exactly. That was fun.
Yeah. Pushing the limits, right? And then widening.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I know that you had a life-changing experience with your health, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to share a little bit about how you've overcome that with our audience.
When you say that, which one? Which one are you talking about? There's been a couple.
You know what? I'm really curious about, if you might, because I was going to ask
go ahead.
it. So I live in Santa Cruz County, and I've read about your Lyme's.
Yeah.
You've had the accident as well, but the Lyme's disease, and if those of our viewers who don't know about that, it's a bite from a tick or that's usually how it's contracted, but it's a disease they say you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
And Ava has miraculously been clear of it.
I don't know if I'm clear of it. Actually, I don't think I am, but it's been a fascinating journey. Gosh, how can I had been training with a master for years, and I had reached this place where I felt I could be calm, centered, and happy pretty much all the time. Nothing much rocked my boat.
Right.
And I was living an amazing life and traveling the world and teaching, and it was just, I had the best life ever. And all of a sudden I was getting old, and I had been healthy my entire life. I've always been super healthy. And all of a sudden I was getting all these weird symptoms, and I didn't understand it, like swelling of legs or sneezing 100 times a day, or irritable and angry and bitchy, and like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And fearful and paranoid. It was crazy, Teri. It was just, and people around me said, "What's wrong with you?" And I don't know. I was so scared. It was really, really scary. And eventually I got the diagnosis of Lyme disease, mm-hmm. which is, as you say, the most common way they think it's being spread is through a tick. And when a tick bites you, it carries 30, 35 different viruses and bacteria, and one of them is Lyme. And another is Babesia, another is Bartonella, and so it's called Lyme, and it's co-infections.
Right, the co-infections.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Lyme has really become an umbrella name for something much more complex, and these different microbes, they mimic diseases that we already have a name for, like schizophrenia or arthritis or Alzheimer's, or all kinds of stuff. So it used to be very difficult to get properly diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And because it's an invader in your physical being. A friend of mine who has Lyme, he had a dream soon after having become ill, and in this dream he's driving a car, and kidnappers take him out of the driver's seat, puts him in the trunk, and jumps in and starts driving his car, and somehow they impersonate him. So the driver looks like him, and he's in the trunk, banging, 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 let me out, someone help me.
Right.
And when he described that, I cried, because that's exactly how it feels. Like I would feel consciousness, I was in this body still.
Mm-hmm.
I was always here.
Right.
But because of the microbes and the chemical imbalances they create, there was no communication between me and, like, I couldn't control my mind and my brain and my mind. So I would behave in weird ways. I would say weird things. And I was in here. It's like, oh my God, who's driving my car?
Right. What an amazing dream that he had to give
Yeah.
a picture. Like, just put that association to it.
And it's impossible to describe, because I still looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
I sounded like me, even though I was saying stuff I normally wouldn't say or act ways I normally wouldn't. So people think it's me. And of course it is, but it's not.
Right. Because you're sick.
I didn't understand it before I experienced it. There was no way to understand it. Because obviously I am the one walking around in the world all of a sudden being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
But conscious me, is sitting in here not being able to control it.
So did you feel like crap too? Or did your body hurt? Or it was mostly just kind of taking over your emotional, mental?
For me, it was mainly what's called neurological mind, in that it mainly affected me cognitively and emotionally. I would be driving from home to the grocery store and get lost. Like, I've driven that 100,000 times. Couldn't find my way.
Right.
And I couldn't compute the GPS information fast enough. So it would say, turn left, and I would hear it, understand it, comprehend it when it was too late. Eventually I would get where I needed to be, but you make it work. But the fear of it, like, oh my God, how can I, like, how am I going to take care of myself? Because I was showing up so strangely and no one understanding it. My life fell apart around me.
Mm-hmm.
Work and friends and family and things like that. My life just crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes a fear, because I wasn't able to take care of myself. But I wasn't in pain. I was very blessed in that. Very little pain. I had some. And for some, it's so excruciatingly painful they can't get out of bed. And some are bedridden, some die.
Right.
As to how to shift this, gosh, I tried everything conventional. I did all of that. None of that really made any difference to me. But I've always felt very connected to life, and I felt guided that way. People would show up in my, like, I had the intent and desire for health. I know this can be done. They say it can't. I know it can. I don't know how, but I know it can.
Right.
And people would show up. So someone invited me to something where a shaman from Peru was present, and he gave his interpretation of what's going on with me, and he said, I have someone in Peru that can help you. So I ended up going to the jungle for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. Staying with someone deep into the jungle, a shaman there, and he was treating me several times a day for 5 weeks, and it made all the difference. So I've been going back there on a regular basis. That's the only thing that really shifted it physically. Mm-hmm. And then once I could shift my physical body enough, because the body wants to heal, it knows how to heal.
Right.
It was just so completely overtaken by this bacteria, and because it affected me so cognitively and emotionally, I wasn't able to hold any healing space for myself. I was in panic all the time, like fight or flight.
Okay.
All the time.
Got it.
So my energy wasn't supporting my own healing, and I couldn't find my way out of it. And
Right.
I have all the tools. I already had all the tools, but I couldn't.
You couldn't access them because they were so.
Yeah. Because my mind and emotion were so affected by the disease, and my mind is the tool I need. I need to be able to direct my mind in order to do my inner work, and I couldn't.
Right.
Which I was aware of, which was the biggest scare. Oh my God, I know how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, and I know that creates my reality, and I can't control it. This is a disaster. Like, how am I ever going to get out of it?
Yeah.
But there was the big I was still present, and there was an intent and desire for healing, and it kept showing up. It kept showing up.
I feel like that's so key, that intent and desire for healing, right?
Regardless, yes.
Regardless of how you feel, how it's showing up for you, but the intention of this is going to be healed, and so you get to keep referencing that.
Yeah. And it wasn't like that I couldn't control my mind the way I had before I got sick, where I could keep my mind silent and quiet, and my emotions, I could stay in the center of the hurricane. I had mastered. I was really good at it. And I thought that my work needed to come from that place. But with Lyme, I couldn't. And it connected me much more strong with that grandness of what I am beyond. Because even if I was completely out of control in my thinking and in my emotions, and there was still a presence there. Intent was still there. That never disappeared. And it became so clear to me because over 6 months, my life changed like rapidly because of Lyme. Like 6 very distinct different dreams, realities.
Yes.
And this presence, beingness, sense of something was untouched by the whole thing. That was consistent. And because it changed so quick, that became very clear. Wait a minute. There's an aspect of me that's completely untouched by this. I'm at top of the game. I'm below everything and anywhere in between. And this is completely untouched.
Right. The same. This is the same.
Yes. That which I really am is untouched. Presence is untouched. So this chaos brought me much more closer to what I really am. And up until that point, my mind had understood all the teachings and applied all the teachings, but it was still my mind. So I was still living in my mind, in my persona, in Eva, in little me.
Right.
And she was controlling and holding everything. And it was just like that. Like, it took energy to hold it together, to stay in the center of the hurricane. And what Lyme forced me to do was let go, surrender. I couldn't control anything any longer. And as long as I tried to do it the old way, through Eva's way of, I can fix this.
Right.
Nothing worked. It wasn't until I went beyond her and surrendered into what I really am. You could say surrender into the hands of God, if that's a language that fits, or source, or for me, it's the little me or the big I. Then this being that we all are, when I surrendered into that, things started to change. And I honestly, I don't know if it's gone. I still have stuff going on, but I don't have a conflict with it any longer.
Feels like Lyme was one of your greatest teachers.
Oh my God, absolutely. Ruthless. And I had already had ruthless teacher, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
Wow. No, it was a gift. It's definitely a beautiful gift. Not one I wish on anyone, but
Right.
yes,
Thank you for
beautiful.
sharing that. I just because I have such close relationship with people who have Lyme,
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear about your
Yeah,
story
no, my
through
heart goes out to anyone who's on that journey. It's not easy.
it. It feels so applicable, though, in just what you were sharing previously about, the big I and the little me. It's just, it's almost just an extension of the world and circumstance to take
Yeah.
us away from the big I, whatever presents
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah.
Whatever kind of sickness or situation or distraction.
We've all heard stories of great people who in the face of great pains, they find their peace, like Nelson Mandela and being locked up and he found freedom.
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing that when there's something you cannot change, if you can move beyond that, there is acceptance and peace, and I don't even have words for it because it's such a, everything is okay. And
It's
that's why I'm saying I don't really know if I'm freed myself of Lyme. I don't know. I don't think I have. I still have stuff going on with my body, but I'm happy now.
mm-hmm.
It's not a conflict. It's not something that I see as poor me, or there's nothing I have to fix. I need to take care of my body, but I don't need to fight the bacteria or fix anything. There's just really nothing wrong.
And it doesn't sound like it's ruling you in a way
No,
it used to. I
no.
mean, it's not ruling your emotions, ruling how you're
Yep.
acting, ruling who you're being.
There's times when I could say it feels like it's ruling my emotions or my thoughts. Just when the bacteria is in the brain, because it moves and it's in the brain and the brain feels under attack, the brain is in panic.
Mm-hmm.
It's chemical.
Right.
But because I now have much greater capacity for allowing any emotion to be in my being without me being those emotions. They can be going on in here, and unless you're tuning in energetically, you can be in front of me and you wouldn't even know it, because it's not being projected any longer.
Right.
It's not even being projected onto myself.
Yes.
It's present in me, but I'm not making it about me any longer. And then it doesn't express onto others either.
Mm-hmm.
And for sure I was doing that when it started. I was desperate. I was reaching out and lashing out. Yeah, and I was not pretty.
Yeah. What a clean way when you're talking about the emotions and the things that are coming at you are not affecting who you're being. It just feels like such a clean, authentic, true way to show up in the world. Show up, period.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a practice. That is my daily practice. That's my reset practice of bringing myself back to the big I, but not the big I out there someplace.
Right.
Here.
Staying here, not going out into la la land and being, detached from here. But
yeah, which is how I handled it in the beginning with Lyme. It was too painful and I couldn't, and I just checked out.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that intimate story and that intimate space that you've been through in your life. That's an amazing thing that you've had to overcome.
Yeah, life brings what we need to grow, I guess.
Yes.
It brings what it brings, so it's futile kind of trying to resist it. Whatever is showing up is showing up, so why resist it?
Right. Just drop into it. And
yeah. Well, it's here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Whatever's gonna come and present itself is gonna come.
Yeah. Well, whatever is here, not so much what's going to come, but whatever is here. Mm-hmm. So when Lyme showed up, I was resisting that.
Mm.
big time, for a long time.
Yeah.
And there is so much suffering in the resistance, much more suffering in the resistance than in Lyme itself, at least for me. I'm not saying that's true for everyone. I was, in a way, lucky in my journey because I didn't have the physical pain so much.
Mm-hmm.
But still, regardless, the suffering in itself is just as bad as any, which comes from the resistance. Like the suffering comes from the resistance. That's in my own experience. That
Right.
made a huge difference when I could relinquish resistance and just allow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, that spread from things beyond Lyme. Oh, I can apply this to anything.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting. Yeah. Such an instrumental part of your
Yeah.
journey in your life.
I knew this as a concept. It wasn't a new concept at all. And I've been trained by great masters in all of this. But I was applying it through my mind. I wasn't surrendering. I wasn't truly allowing. I was controlling as opposed to allowing. And I thought that was the same thing. Of course, I didn't think control was allowing, but the way I was doing it, I thought I was allowing. I can see now I was controlling. I was holding it in place, making sure things were in place so I could hold what I needed to hold, instead of just allowing whatever is here, except allow.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very different approach to life.
So different.
And Lyme brought me that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to say but thank you.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for sharing that piece.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I would like to be able to share with our viewers where they might be able to find you so that they can look further into you and, maybe see what you're up to. And I know you have your website, and if there was anything else that you wanted to share with them.
Well, I have my website. I'm sure you'll have that in the information. It's
Yes.
evacharlotte.com. And then the Peacemakers also is globalpeacemakers.net.
Okay.
And you can find me there, and there's contact information there. And there's a gift as well, a meditation and an opportunity to connect more personally as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I encourage you all to go check out what's happening in the peacekeepers with the peace holders. It's amazing work that you're doing outside and inside. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy we managed to get it together.
I know, me too. So thank you all for coming today, and we will see you all soon. Right. Bye-bye.